Hello, Fantastics. It's Mr.Clintastik here with a Strixhaven School of Mages limited archetype guide for Izzet, otherwise known as Prismari. If you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow in the future. So, like I said, this is a limited archetype guide to help you construct decks in draft and sealed. This guide will kind of go over the notable points of the set for this color scheme and highlight any important creatures or other spells that go with the archetype. So to start off, we're going to start off with Izzet Magecraft. I went and pulled all the Magecraft cards or Magecraft relevant cards that I could find, and let's get started. First, we have Elemental Expressionist, a 4-drop Izzet colored creature, orc wizard with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, choose target creature you control until end of turn. It gains if this creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. And when you exile this creature, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. It's a 4/4. A 4/4 for 4 is already decent, right? And with the Magecraft ability, maybe you have to be big brain to use it, but I think it'll be really good. Oh, thank you for the cheers, Luigi 5. I think it'll be really good to turn one of your other creatures that's going to get removed into a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Now, why would that creature be removed instead of this one? I don't know. But wait, you can choose this creature. So they could be trying to remove this and you can replace itself. So Elemental Expressionist, definitely a good Magecraft card for your Izzet deck. Easy pick. I don't know if I'm going to say first pick. I'll probably try to get some removal, but I do think it's an interesting card. Next we have Prismari Apprentice, a blue-red human shaman, 2/2 with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Prismari Apprentice can't be blocked this turn. If that spell has mana value 5 or greater, put a 1/1 counter on Prismari Apprentice. The Prismari school is all about big, beefy instants and sorceries. There's a good chance you might have 2 to 3 cards that pump this card up 5 or greater. Even if you don't, it's still a 2/2 potential unblockable creature every time you trigger Magecraft, which I think is excellent. If you're going for blue-red Magecraft, this is definitely a card you'll want. They'll definitely have to get this off the board at some point, or they're just gonna get their face beat in by a human shaman. Next we have Prismari Pledge Mage, a 2-drop blue-red hybrid orc wizard with Defender and Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Prismari Pledge Mage can attack this turn as though it didn't have Defender. It's a 3/3. I like this a lot. I mentioned it in the Boros limited archetype guide. It's a 2-drop 3/3. You trigger one Magecraft ability, it's just swinging in for good value, or it's blocking for great value. There's not much to say about this card, except you want it in your Izzet Magecraft deck. Next we have Archmage Emeritus, a 4-drop 2 generic 2 blue human wizard with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. It's a 2/2. This will definitely lead you in the path of Izzet Magecraft or maybe Simic Magecraft, but this is definitely getting you into blue Magecraft right here. 4-drop 2/2 isn't the best, right? It's not a flyer, but every time you cast the instant or sorcery, every time you trigger Magecraft, I have to stop saying every time you cast the instant or sorcery. Magecraft is when you cast or copy. So every time you trigger Magecraft, you draw a card. You know how ridiculous that could get in a short period of time? And he's not even legendary. You could have 2 of these on the board. This is one of those cards that will make you concerned that you might deck yourself out. Might make you want to put instants and sorceries on the bottom of your library so you can have them to draw again. Love that card. Next we have Symmetry Sage, a 1-drop blue human wizard with flying. 0/2. Has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, target creature you control has base power 2 until end of turn. This is so unexciting. This is so unexciting. Like, you trigger Magecraft. You make this a 2/2. You trigger Magecraft again. You make, what you gonna do? Make your 3/3 a 2/3? You make your 1/1 a 2/1? I just don't like it. I mean, they could have gave it 1 power. It's a flyer, so that makes it decent. But to be a 0/2 flyer with such a limited reach over the course of the game, I'm not a fan. But it has Magecraft, you can play it. Next we have a MDFC, Rowan Scholar of Sparks and Will Scholar of Frost. Rowan Scholar of Sparks is a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a red legendary planeswalker. They both have the same passive ability of instants and sorcery spells. Cost 1 less to cast. You're always going to want that in your Izzet decks. +1, Rowan Scholar of Sparks deal 1 damage to each opponent. If you've drawn 3 or more cards this turn, she deals 3 damage to each opponent instead. You can neg for it. You get an emblem whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. You may pay 2. If you do copy that spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. So that's really what it got in the Magecraft deck for, helping to copy and bounce spells or whatnot. Next we have Will Scholar of Frost, 5-drop, 4 generic, and a blue. +1, up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness 0/2 until your next turn. Defensive tactic. Neg 3, draw 2 cards. 5-drop, draw 2 cards on a walker. That ain't bad. Like, on an instant or a sorcery, you're like, okay, but on a walker with recursive value, I like it. Then you can neg 7, exile up to 5 target permanents. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token into 4/4. So those permanents could be your own lands. You could like target their biggest threat, target some of your lands, turn them into creatures. You want this all day. All day. One of those bomb cards. Next we have Quandrix Pledge Mage. 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 blue-green hybrid. And this is just a reminder. Your hybrid cards can go in certain decks. Like, even though this is a Izzet Archetype guide, this is essentially mono blue if it needs to be. It has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 counter on Quandrix Pledge Mage. It's 2/2. Definitely something you want in your Izzet Magecraft deck. I mean, it can just keep pumping up and whatnot. I don't see a problem. Alright, next we have Lorehold Pledge Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 red-white hybrid core shaman with first strike and 2/2. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Lorehold Pledge Mage gets 1/0 until end of turn. I don't see anything wrong with this card. I do think it goes better in the Boros build, you know, trying to be really, really aggressive. Because so far, Izzet could be decently aggressive with some apprentices and some pledge mages, right? Some good 2-drop value. So yeah, maybe you want to curve into this and start continuing to beat face. Alright, next we have Jadzi, Oracle of Archevios. It's an 8-drop, 6 generic, 2 blue, legendary creature, human wizard. Discard a card, return Jadzi, Oracle of Archevios to its owner's hand. Okay. Has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it by paying 1 rather than paying its mana cost. If it's a land card, put it on the battlefield. It's a 5/5. My God. Card's expensive to cast, right? 8 mana. Maybe you can do this in your Izzet Treasures deck. Maybe you can do this in your Simic land deck. But regardless, I think this is a really powerful card for Izzet. If you can get up to the appropriate mana, you're gonna take off in the game. They're gonna have to get rid of that. And Reflective Golem is gonna get an honorable mention. Basically, Spell Satchel and Reflective Golem are gonna get mentioned in each Magecraft list. Reflective Golem is a 3-drop artifact golem. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Reflective Golem, you may pay 2. If you do, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This is just great. It can trigger your Magecraft twice. Definitely put in your Magecraft decks. Spell Satchel, 2-drop with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, put a book counter on Spell Satchel. Remove a book counter from Spell Satchel. Add a colorless. That's great. Or pay 3 and tap. Remove 3 book counters from Spell Satchel and draw a card. Learn a little something. So that's what we have for the Magecraft section of Izzet. In my opinion, you want these early game creatures. Like if you are trying to put together Magecraft Izzet without Pledge Mage, without Apprentice, without Quandrix Pledge Mage, without Lorehold Pledge Mage, without Reflective Golem, you're going to be lacking in power, even if you're able to pick up like Expressionists and whatnot, or even the Meritus. So if you get something like a Meritus or Expressionist, you're really going to want to pick up tools like Apprentice and Pledge Mage to help support your deck across the board. Here we go. Next we have Izzet Treasures, which might be the best version of Izzet you can potentially compose. Like, I don't know. I think you got some better pieces than Magecraft, but I feel like it's really, really forced. So let me know your opinion on that. I really feel like Izzet Treasures is forced, but we're going to work with what we got, right? Alright, to start it off, we got IzzetPrismari, the founder of the Prismari school. It is a 4-drop, 2 generic, a blue and a red, legendary creature, Elder Dragon, 3/4. Flying, when it ETBs, create a treasure token, so a 4-drop ramper. Nice. Artifacts you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast instant and sorcery spells. Okay, a lot of the instant and sorceries, as you're going to see, are expensive AF. Like, like what were they thinking? Like, why did they do this? So, Izzet players, be ready to pull your sleeves up, ramp up some treasures, and play some big boys. Some big boy spells. But the fact that this gives other artifacts tap to give you mana is great. So when you do get your treasures, you don't have to sack them. You can just tap them for mana, which is really good. If you pick up IzzetPrismari, you're definitely open up to this treasure, kind of like a treasure spells archetype. Next we have Culmination of Studies. It's a blue-red X sorcery. Exile the top X cards of your library. For each land card exiled this way, create a treasure token. For each blue card exiled this way, draw a card. For each red card exiled this way, Culmination of Studies deal 1 damage to each opponent. So, doesn't it look like you need a lot of mana, huh? You're not going to want to do this for 3. You get 1 spin. You're gonna want to do this for 2, 3. Wait, well, X for 2, 3, and 4 mana. So that's like what, 6 mana right there. To really get value off the card, in my opinion. Ooh, and then this card is kind of dangerous too. Exile the top X cards of your library. You're just straight up exiling them. I'm pretty sure there's a way to put cards back from exile, but that's kind of scary. Culmination of Studies is scary. You're gonna have to have some vibranium balls to really play Culmination of Studies, because you're just exiling things for no reason, right? I don't know. I'll have to see it at work. Next we have Prismari. Command, a 3-drop, 1 generic, blue and a red. Choose 2, instant. Prismari command deals 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards, discards 2 cards. Target player creates a treasure token, destroy target artifact. Lots of modes on here you can use. This got put on the list because it can create a treasure token, but it can also deal 2 damage to any target or let you discard cards to draw cards, which could be valuable. Next we have Storm Kiln Artist, a 4-drop, 2/2, and the more I see this card, I think the less I like it. At first I liked it a lot. It gets 1/0 for each artifact you control. It pairs really well with your Galazeth, I suppose. And its Magecraft ability is whenever you cast a copy, an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. And this probably fits best with Prismari. Or just you're trying to play big spells in general. But yeah, did this not get displayed in the Magecraft section? If this didn't get displayed in Magecraft section, it definitely needed to be there. Definitely have a pretty potent Magecraft ability for red. Next we have Elemental Masterpiece. Beefy spells like I was telling you before. 7 mana. 5 generic blue red. Create 2 4/4 blue and red elemental creature tokens. You can pay 2 hybrid blue red. Discard elemental masterpiece. Create a treasure token. So it can, it's early game. You still need some treasures to get to your other things. You can discard it, make a treasure. Late game, you make 2 4/4 blue and red elemental creature tokens. I'm not so big a fan of that. That's not my favorite thing to do. Like, I don't just sit there all game and be like, oh man, I can't wait till turn 7 to make my 2 4/4s. Unless they're 2 4/4 angels with flying and vigilance. Moving on. Creative Outburst, 7 mana, 3 generic, 2 blue, 2 red. Instant. Deal 5 damage to any target. I like that. Look at top 5 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand. The rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And you can also discard it to make the treasure token. I like that a lot better than Elemental Masterpiece. You could win the game with this card, 7, boom, to your face. 5, boom, to your face. And I get to look for another card when I play it. Okay. Next we have Magma Opus. An 8 mana, 6 generic, a blue and a red instant. Deal 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Tap 2 permanents. Create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Draw 2 cards. No wonder it's mythic. It's kind of cool. It's expensive, but you deal damage, you tap permanents, you make a creature, and you draw cards. That's a lot of abilities, and you can potentially make your treasure token if you can't play this yet. Okay. Definitely what you want to see in your treasure build. Wait. Oh yeah. I was like, why did this get put on the treasure list? You have to create a treasure right there. And then we have Sudden Breakthrough. 2 mana, 1 generic and a red instant. Target creature gets 2/0, gains first strike until end of turn. Create a treasure token. I didn't mention this in the Boros review, but this probably needed a notable mention. This goes good in the Boros Magecraft, right? You pump your creature, 2/0, you trigger your Magecraft, and you make a treasure token. I can see this slotting in really well there. But these are all the all the cards, I'm pretty sure, that create the treasure tokens in Izzet. So I probably should have put flyers and unblockable in one list, because there's not really many of them, but I did want to discuss them in the context solo, because you could put together, you know, is it flyers? You could put together, is it unblockable? If you want to, you know, these are just options. But we already went over IzzetPrismari, 4-drop, 3/4 flyer, red blue, creates the treasure token, artifacts tap for mana. Next we have Maelstrom Muse, a 4-drop, 1 generic, 1 blue red hybrid, and a red gen wizard with flying. Whenever it attacks the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn, cost X less to cast, where X is Maelstrom Muse's power. As this ability resolves, it's a 2/4. Might help you play some of your big Izzet spells sooner. Something to think about. Next we have Spectacle Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 red bird shaman with flying. It's a 2/2. Instant and sorcery spells you cast with mana value 2 or greater cost 1 less to cast. So these are Izzet flyers might help you play your big spells too. Maybe you can combine your Izzet flyers with some treasure producers to help. This is for the big brains out there. I don't know if I'm gonna do it. It's too much for me. Way too much. But that's just another card. And it's common. 2/2 flyer is already good. You get multiple of these, your 5 and greater cards can at least be, you know, what, 4 mana. Like, yeah, you can make a 5 mana card 4, 6 mana card 5. The more you get, the better. Okay. Next we have Dream Strix, 3 mana, 2 generic and a blue bird illusion. Flying, when it becomes the target of a spell, sacrifice it. When it dies, learn. And I guess I need to go in and put this in the lesson learned category. I forgot it. I'm not a fan of this card. It's a 3-drop 3/2 that you can't even pump. I want to be able to pump my creature. They can target it with their pump spell and it dies. I get to learn. It replaces itself. So I guess it does have more value than I initially gave it, because I'm rating learn a little higher the more and more I see it. But at the same time, I don't really like this card. You can play it in your Izzet flyers though, no problem. Next we have Frost Trickster, a 3-drop, 2 generic and a blue bird wizard with flying. When an ETBs, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. It's a 2/2. I'm gonna pick up so many of these. Y'all, you're gonna hear me say Frost Trickster so many times. It's a 3-drop 2/2 flyer that taps a creature down for 2 turns. All day, mate. All day. Yeah. So like I said, red blue flyers, it is possible. There's some things here. Waterfall Aerialist, a 4-drop, 3 generic and a blue gen wizard with flying, and Ward. It's a 3/1. Not sure if we've discussed Ward already, but Ward is an ability depending on what the ward is. They have to pay mana to target your creature equal to the ward cost. That's really neat. A 4-drop 3/1 flyer though, isn't that great? If you're pumping it, if you're equipping it, maybe. But it's not even full hexproof, so I don't know. We'll see. And Retriever Phoenix. Pretty much if you're playing red, you want to be playing Retriever Phoenix. No questions. Next, we're going to move to Unblockable. There's a couple, like I said, there's not many. They probably could have been included with the flyers. But I did want to note that red blue does have some unblockable threats. So if you're not playing them, be sure someone else is. So Prismari Apprentice with Magecraft gets unblockable with Magecraft. And whenever you cast a spell, if that spell, anytime you cast an instant or sorcery with mana value 5 or greater, put a 1/1 counter on it. That's powerful. It's uncommon. But if I happen to get 2-3 of these, best believe I'm running them. And I'm going to try to protect them. Next we have Wormhole Serpent. It's a 5-drop, 4 generic and a blue serpent. It's a 3/5. Pay 4, 3 generic and a blue. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Essentially, it gives other creatures unblockable. And that's why I said you could potentially make a full unblockable list in Izzet if you want to. Vortex Runner, 3-drop, 2 generic and a blue. Human Wizard, 2/3. As long as you have 8 or more lands, Vortex Runner get 1/0 and can't be blocked. So late game, this is a 3/3 unblockable threat. Nasty. You better have the removal for it. I've had times, I think it was maybe Ixalan that had like unblockable Izzet cards, and they wrecked me. Next we have Hall Monitor, a 1-drop red 1/1 with haste. Pay 2, a generic and a red. Tap. Target creature can't block this turn. So there's a lot of can't block, can't be blocked scenarios going on right here. That once again, if you're not playing them, you might want to at least be on the lookout for them. Alright. Next we're going to go over the lesson and learn cards. And I'm going to slap one on here just in case I forgot it. That owl that I don't necessarily like. That bird illusion. So yeah, once again, every colored pair in Strixhaven is going to have a section of lesson learned cards. Some of these may overlap, so if they overlap in the same video, I'm probably not going to run through it over and over again. But these are cards to be aware of when you're learning and when you're picking out your lessons in Izzet. We have Divide by Zero, a 3-drop, 2 generic and a blue instant. Return target spell or permanent with mana value 1 or greater to his owner's hand. Learn. Okay. You can kill tokens, but you can't kill those. No, wait. You can't kill tokens. I said that all wrong. Divide by Zero is not going to kill any of those 2/1 flying Inkling tokens. It's not going to kill any Spirit tokens. It's not going to kill, well, the tokens are there. Inkling, Spirit, Elemental. There's 3 types of tokens that Divide by Zero won't kill. It's only going to give you bounce value, but it does learn. But you just got to think about that when you're trying to bounce their forever fractal token. Divide by Zero can't help you do that. But it does have learn on there. Arcane Subtraction, a 2-drop, 1 generic, 1 blue instant. Target creature gets -4, -0 until end turn. Learn, not one of my favorite abilities. Yeah, I'd rather be killing threats, but it's a tempo play. Pop Quiz, a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a blue instant. Draw a card. Learn. Couple of these actually is not bad. 3-drop, you draw a card, and you get to go to your sideboard and pick out one of your specific threats. Pop Quiz has a lot of value to it. It's weird. In my opinion, it could be better than Divination. It's instant speed. You already draw a card, and you basically draw 2 if you have a lesson in the side. I like Pop Quiz a lot. Retriever Phoenix. We already done discussed this card so much. 4-drop, 2/2, flying haste. When you cast it from your hand, you learn. As long as it's in your graveyard, if you would learn, you may instead return Retriever Phoenix to the battlefield. I really just, I, that slam dunk. Let's go on and talk about Dream Strix real quick before I forget. 3 drop, 2 generic and a blue, flyer, 3/2. When it becomes a target of a spell, sacrifice it. When it dies, you learn. Just another way to learn, to have learn in your deck. Next, we have Academic Dispute, a 1 red instant. Target creature blocks this turn. If able, you may have it gain reach until end of turn. You learn. This is one of those spells that I definitely said Boros may want as well, Boros Magecraft. So it might not, I don't know if it's going to be easy to get, honestly. Easily playable, and it has a strong enough interaction in my opinion because it can function as a removal spell, kinda. You know, you can slam it, give your big guy reach, so it blocks their flyer unexpectedly, then learn. That's even more value. So yeah, really powerful card in my opinion, and I think we're going to be seeing Academic Dispute a lot, as well as Igneous Inspiration, the 3 drop, 2 generic and a red. It deals 3 damage to any target. You learn. Crazy. Enthusiastic Study, 3 drop, 2 generic and a red instant. Target creature get +3/+1, gains trample until end of turn. Learn. Another card that Boros Magecraft is definitely going to want. You're going to probably have to compete with them for that card. First Day of Class. Still don't know how to rate this card. 2 drop, instant, 1 generic and a red. Whenever a creature ETBs under your control this turn, put a 1/1 counter on it and it gains haste until end of turn. Learn. So weird. It's so weird. It makes you wait till late. Like, you essentially gotta wait till like what, turn 4 to really make this good. Like, you play this and then next creature comes out, a 2 drop potentially comes out with haste and a counter. Illuminate History, a 4 drop, 2 generic and 2 red. Discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards. Then if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Did I overlook this when I was discussing red lessons in Boros? Maybe. If I did, this is definitely a lesson that can go in Boros, or is it? Discard cards, draw cards, and then if you have 7 more cards in your yard, create a 3/2 spirit. Nice lesson to tutor up. Gives you card value and a creature, all in 4 mana. Yep. Spirit Summoning, a 3 drop, 1 generic, 2 red white hybrid. Lesson, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Not much to say there. Elemental Summoning, a 5 drop, 3 generic, 2 blue red hybrid. Lesson, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. All great things to tutor up, right? Start from scratch, 3 drop, 2 generic and a red. Lesson, choose one, start from scratch, deal 1 damage to any target. Maybe pings off a 2/1 Inkling. Destroy target artifact. Mascot Exhibition, 7 mana. Lesson, create a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying, a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token, and a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. If you're getting this from the sideboard, that's great. I'm not going to necessarily want a lot of these lessons in my main board. I think the most power comes when you're learning with them, when you're learning and then getting them out the sideboard. Next we have Environmental Sciences, 2 mana. Lesson, search your library for basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. You gain 2 life. Can pretty much go in any lesson, any deck. Introduction to Annihilation, 5 mana. Lesson, exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. Expanded Anatomy, 3 mana, 3 generic mana. Lesson, put 2 1/1 counters on target creature. It gains vigilance until end of turn. Teachings of the Archaics, 2 generic and a blue. Lesson, if an opponent has more cards in hand than you, draw 2 cards. Draw 3 cards instead if an opponent has at least 4 more cards in hand than you. This is okay, but what if your opponent doesn't have more cards in hand than you? You draw no cards? A 3 drop draw no card spell, right? I'm kind of iffy on it. Next, we have Introduction to Prophecy, a 3-drop. Scry 2, then draw a card. Okay. Mercurial Transformation, a 2-mana, 1 generic, 1 blue. Lesson until end of turn. Target non-land permanent loses all abilities and becomes your choice of a blue frog creature with base power and toughness 1/1, or a blue octopus creature with base power and toughness 4/4. Okay. Definitely some interesting spells there. Not sure you can just put together a lesson learned deck, but I think Retriever Phoenix and Pop Quiz might just be a couple of the better spells, or at least no Igneous Inspiration too. And I think you're going to be fighting with the Boros players for Academic Dispute and Enthusiastic Study. Next, we're going to move to Izzet Removal. Okay. So these are going to be the removal spells that you want to consider when you're building your limited and draft decks for Izzet. Magma Opus, the 8-mana spell we discussed earlier. 4 damage as you choose among any number of targets. Tap 2 permanents, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token, draw 2 cards, and you can discard it, create a treasure token. 4 damage divided as you choose is good. 8 mana is bad. But that's your choice to do it or not. Next we have Flamethrower Sonatas, part of an MDFC. It's a 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 red sorcery. Discard a card, then draw a card. When you discard an instant or sorcery card this way, Flamethrower Sonata deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Okay, so you can discard Magma Opus, deal 8 damage for 2 mana. That's kind of powerful, right? That's pretty dang powerful. Prismari Command, the 3-drop that deals 2 damage to any target, draws 2 cards, discards 2 cards, creates a treasure and destroys an artifact. Resculpt, 2-drop, 1 generic and a blue instant, exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Early me didn't used to like these cards, but this could be potentially playable. You can hold it back so when they try to remove your threat, you remove your threat instead, right? And create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Because I doubt I want to give them a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token unless I'm forced to try to take down an Elder Dragon or something. Next we have Tempted by the Auric, a 4-drop, 1 generic, 3 blue. For each opponent, gain control of up to 1 target creature or planeswalker that player controls with mana value 3 or less. I like this a lot. I'm gonna have to really look and see, can you do monocolored this set? Like, would it be wise? And because this is really heavy leaning towards blue, right? It's only getting creatures and walkers 3 or less, so we can probably grab Rowan and Kasmina, right? Can get you a decent 3-drop creature, but what creature in blue-red are you gonna care about too much? I don't know. It's good though. Snow Day, 6 mana, 4 generic, 2 blue. Instant, tap up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card. One of these won't hurt you. Maybe. A lot of these spells are just really expensive. Are they trying to slow the format down? Because if they are trying to slow the format down, I promise you the big brains are just going to be aggro. Like, they're just going to get all the low, just do nothing creatures and pump them. Next we have Test of Talents. 2-drop, 1 generic and a blue, instant, counter, instant, or sorcery spell. Search its controller's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name as that spell and exile them. That player shuffles, then draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. So this isn't necessarily removal. When I think of removal, I think of creature removal. But I did want to mention it as one of the few counter spells, although it only counters instants and sorceries. Here we have Kelpie Guide, a 3-drop beast, 2/2. You can tap it, untap another target permanent you control. You can tap it, tap target permanent, activate only if you control 8 or more lands. This is more so for like the Simic lands archetype in limited, but still, if you do happen to get up to 8 lands, you can use this to start tapping out your opponent's permanents, which is pretty valuable, especially if you have multiple of these. Okay. Reject, 2 mana, 1 blue, 1 generic counter creature or planeswalker spell unless its controller pays 3. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Frost Trickster, I mentioned that earlier when I talked about blue-red flyers. It's just great. It's not hard removal, but it does tap a creature down that turn and the next turn, and it's an evasive threat. Bury in Books, a 5-drop, 4 generic and a blue instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets an attacking creature. Put target creature into its owner's library, second from the top. Most time this is going to be a 3 mana, put their creature back in their deck, and they're going to have to draw it again, play it again. This is going to give you the time you need. This is a great tempo play. So, might be what you want to play. Crackle with Power. Mentioned that before too, probably in the Boros section, Boros Archetype Guide. It's good. I mean, if you were really playing up treasures, right, or reducing the cost of your spell, this is going to be good for you. This is a game closer. If you have, this card in 14 mana, you win. No questions from 20. Crackle with Power deals 5 damage times X damage to each of up to X targets. Even if you're not finishing the game, you might be saving yourself, giving yourself another turn. I don't know. Draconic Intervention, 4 mana, 2 generic, 2 red sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, exile an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. Draconic Intervention deals X damage to each non-dragon creature, where X is the exile card's mana value. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. Exile Draconic Intervention. We've seen all of the big Izzet spells, and if you discard one of those, make a treasure, Draconic Intervention for 6 or 7, you're blowing up the board. You're definitely blowing up the board. I like Draconic Intervention a lot. As well as Igneous Inspiration. I think this is going to be a big pick for people. I'd run as many of these as I could, actually, and then put together a lesson learned it. Next we have Explosive Welcome, 8 mana, 7 generic and a red. Deal 5 damage to any target, 3 damage to any other target. Add 3 red mana. Pigment Storm, 5 mana, 3 generic, 2 red. Sorcery, deal 5 damage to target creature. Excess damage dealt to that creature's controller instead. And Heated Debate, 3-drop, 2 generic and a red. This spell can't be countered. Deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Alright. And to wrap up, we're going to go through the notable mentions. And there might be some overlap with the notables, but they pretty much go in pretty much any Izzet and maybe even Boros type builds. So we already talked about Rowan and Will, the Planeswalker. If you see it, definitely try to at least go Izzet. It's a big reason to go Izzet. Now you could go Boros still with the Rowan side, or you could go Simic with the Will side, but I think it's best if you have the option of both. Retriever Phoenix in Boros or Izzet, it's going to be amazing. Ardent Dusk Speaker is probably going to be amazing in any deck running red, as well as Efreet Flame Painter. Aerialist really isn't notable. Okay, here we go. Uvilda, Dean of Perfection, a 3-drop, 2 generic and a blue. It's an MDFC, Gen Wizard, legendary creature. It's a 2/2. You may exile an instant or sorcery card from your hand and put 3 honed counters on it. It gains at the beginning of your upkeep. If this card is exiled, remove a honed counter from it. And when the last honed counter is removed from this card, if it's exiled, you may cast it. It costs 4 less to cast this way. With a lot of big Izzet cards, you might want to try it. I don't know. On the flip side, we have Nasari, Dean of Expression, a 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 red, legendary creature, a freak shaman, 4/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile top card of each opponent's library until the end of your turn. No, until end of turn. You may cast spell from among those exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though there were mana of any color to cast those spells. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a 1/1 counter on Nasari, Dean of Expression. I'll probably try this card. Like, I think both sides have some merit. It's another reason to go into Izzet itself. Personally, I don't know how much I'm going to want to play in Izzet. So far, I'm liking how Boros is looking, and maybe even Golgari or Orzhov. Like, I'm just not liking Izzet. I feel like it's trying to pull me in too many different directions. Next, we have Torrent Sculptor. It's another MDFC. We already talked about Flamethrower Sonata. Torrent Sculptor is a 4-mana, 2 generic, 2 blue, Merfolk Wizard, 2/2 with Ward 2. Whenever ETBs, exile an instant or sorcery from your graveyard, put a number of 1/1 counters on Torrent Sculptor equal to half that card's mana value rounded up. So if it's 6 mana, it's a 4/4 to come in as a 5/5. I guess that's okay. And Flamethrower Sonata is the sorcery that you could discard a card, draw a card. When you discard an instant or sorcery, you deal damage equal to that mana value to target creature or walker. I just wanted to make sure that got represented on both sides. IzzetPrismari, just a great reason to go into Izzet, just like the Elemental Expressionist. And I don't know if Cracklewood Power is a notable mention. It actually went in the removal section. And then we got our lands. Frostboil Snarl. It comes in tapped unless you reveal an island or mountain from your hand. Prismari Campus enters tapped. You can tap to get a blue or red, or pay 4, tap, scry 1. Hall of Oracles gives you a colorless. You can pay 1, tap, add a mana of any color, or tap, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery, and if you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. Access Tunnel, tap, give you a colorless, or pay 3, tap, target creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. And Archway Commons, ETB's tapped, you sack it unless you pay 1, add 1 mana of any color. Pretty much these 3 lands are going to go, I'm going to say they pretty much go in all 5 decks, or all color archetypes. They're just good. Unblockable, counters on your creatures, any color. And then I wanted to just talk about Strixhaven Stadium for a second. I don't necessarily know the best deck for it to go in. I'm guessing an aggressive deck, but I just love the flavor of this card. It ramps you, right? 3 mana, it's an artifact, tap, get a colorless, put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. That puts a point counter on it. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, remove a point counter from Strixhaven Stadium. Okay. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Then if it has 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all, and that player loses the game. Strixhaven Stadium pretty much goes in every deck. So I wanted to put these with these cards here because they go in every deck. So yeah, overall, and I could be wrong, I feel like Izzet is the weakest of the schools. There's a lot of things going on there, but I don't know. I think red synergizes a little bit better with the white cards in this format, and we're going to see. we're gonna see as the format develops, especially in draft, um, how it goes. But these are all the cards that you'll definitely want to have your eye out for any Izzet archetypes in Strixhaven School of Mages. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. I'm going to do all the School of Mages. So next, what will be next? I believe it's going to be Simic will be next, followed by Golgari, and then Orzhov. So if you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow in the future. And yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this evening. I need a break. As always, you guys are fantastic. My name is Mr. Clintastik, and I'll see you guys